Welcome to this week's episode of A Spiritual Cup of Coffee, the weekly video series where we discover spiritual principles from the Bible
and a journal that we
and
can apply to our everyday
go
lives.
to Matthew chapter 10, verse 36 through 39. Says this. By the way, I'm reading from the Message version, so if it's a little different than your version, that's why, but it's a version that's a little more real for this day and age. So 10:36 says, well-meaning family members can be your worst enemies. If you prefer father or mother over me, you don't deserve me. If you prefer son or daughter over me, you don't deserve me. If you don't go all the way with me through thick and thin, you don't deserve me. If your first concern is to look after yourself, you'll never find yourself. But if you forget about yourself and look to me, you'll find both yourself and me. That is jam-packed with a lot of information and a really tough lesson to learn. Quite frankly, this is probably one of the hardest things to learn and to overcome. Well-meaning family members can be your worst enemies. You know, following God's plan for your life really requires you to step out in faith, boldly, even when your family, and your friends for that matter, don't agree or they question what you're doing. And that makes it really hard because we love our family, we love our friends, we really, we want them to be proud of us. We want them to come alongside of us and support us. And sometimes when we begin to really follow God's will for our lives, that's not how things happen right away. You know, following God's plan for your life requires boldness. It requires you to follow through and go after God, seek Him wholeheartedly. You know, a couple months ago, I had a situation where there was something that I know that I needed to do, and I was really seeking the approval of my parents and some other family members, and I wasn't getting it. God was telling me to do it, but for some reason I felt like I needed their approval. And it got to the point where I was really stuck in a hard place because I was going to do it anyway. I knew that I had to, but now I had to tell my parents that, look, I'm going to do this even though you don't agree with me. And I remember being on the phone with my mom, and it was a really difficult conversation because I had to stand up for myself in a way that I never have before. And I had to say, you know what, Mom? I am never going to be able to be the person that God created me to be without disappointing you and Dad, because He's going to require me to do some things that you guys don't always agree with. And that was really hard for me to say. And I wasn't being dishonoring by saying that. I just needed to share with them that God is telling me to do something I've never done before, and I have to stand up for myself right now in order to take that first step. And you know, Isaiah 7 verse 9 says, if you do not stand firm in your faith, you won't stand at all. And I was really being tested as to, am I going to stand firm in my faith that God has called me to do this, or am I going to crumble and not do it just to please the people who love me? Well, I stood in my faith, and a couple hours later I actually got a phone call back from my parents saying that they were sorry that they questioned it. They completely supported my decision, and everything turned out great. It ended up being one of the times that I'm most proud of myself for, because I stood up for myself and I stood firm in what God was telling me to do. And it actually built a stronger bond, I believe, between my parents and I, because they knew that I wasn't just going off making some strange decision, but they knew that I was really listening to God, and they knew that ultimately I was following God's plan for my life. I don't know where you're at today. Maybe you're Maybe you're overcoming a sickness yourself, or maybe your child has a sickness that you're trying to help them overcome, and maybe you have, your parents over here saying one thing, and maybe your in-laws are saying another. Maybe your doctors are saying something else, and wellness professionals are saying something else. Wherever you're at, and maybe you have an entirely different situation where you're just trying to overcome an obstacle, and you're hearing a lot of confusing suggestions from the people around you. Wherever you're at, I want to encourage you. You know what God is telling you to do. If you take a step back and really listen, you know what God is telling you to do. And I want to encourage you to follow through with that, to stand firm in what He's telling you to do, even if the people that love you the most don't agree with it. They may not agree with it right now, but down the road, they might. Down the road, things might change. Down the road, you might even be an example for them that they desperately need in their life. God says, if you don't go all the way with me through thick and thin, you don't deserve me. He wants to partner with you. He wants to have a marriage with you. The kind of partnership where every decision is made together. Every decision is made with Him. You're together through thick and thin. Forget about what other people are going to think about you. Forget about how other people are going to look at what you're doing. Just forget about it. Forget about yourself and get out of your comfort zone. Take that first step. Earnestly seek God and follow through with what He has for you. Your family members are going to look up to you. And they may not ever say it to you, but you're going to be an example to them. You might even be somebody that they wish they could be like. They wish they could have your faith. They wish that they could have that relationship with God that you have. And maybe because of your faith and because you follow through, maybe they will meet God in a way they never had before. So I encourage you to step out in faith this week. Apply this message. Apply these verses to your life. Forget about yourself and seek God wholeheartedly. Come back over here and share it with me. Right at the bottom of the page, you can leave some comments. Share with me what you're currently overcoming. Let's celebrate it together, because the thing that we need the most is encouragement. We need to band together on this journey and encourage each other, especially if we're in a place where our well-meaning family members aren't supporting us and aren't encouraging. Celebrate what God is doing. So share that in the comments below, and know that I will be looking forward to hearing from you. I'm praying for you this week, and I will be here next week, same time and place. Until then, may you be blessed, be healthy, and be inspired. Bye-bye.